Yeah. I mean, it's interesting that in the interviews, what Bernard was talking to Jumbo-Visma about trying to get up the road in numbers, because clearly they reckon to beat Pogacar and Mathieu van der Poel, it is going to require bulk. Because I think sort of the subtext was maybe that Dwars of Vlaanderen was a little bit of a rehearsal for this.
I mean, I mentioned this earlier, but I don't get your thoughts on this, John. That if Wout van Aert had won Dwars of Vlaanderen on Wednesday, we're talking about 4 days ago, would more people be talking about him in a really positive way as being one of the big favourites? Because he was second, and he was second, and he cramped up. If he'd won that, my thinking is everyone would be going, well, Wout van Aert might win the Ronde. And now at the moment, if he were to win today, I think you'd find people saying it's a surprise or a turnaround.
Well, yeah, but did he cramp up or did he just not have the jump? I'm not sure.
John, did he cramp up or did he not have the jump? Well, let's hear from one of those big favourites, Tadej Pogacar, just before the start this morning.
Tadej Pogacar, as a four-time Grand Tour champion, also a former winner of the Ronde van Vlaanderen, what is it about the unforgiving cobbles here in this moment?
He's got a kind of a casual flair that I like.
But that's him in general, isn't it? I think that's his... I don't know...
He doesn't behave like he's Tadej Pogacar.
No, and I thought I'll declare this. I'm happy to declare this live on air. The first few years that he broke onto the scene, I had it down as a bit of an act. I thought it was something he was putting on, but actually, I think actually it is really him. I think he's done well to keep it up if it is an act, and I think he is just a chilled out guy who's enjoying himself. It seems to work, doesn't it?
Yeah, although I think also, I mean, pro cycling is less serious than it was a decade ago. I think things like gravel have sort of changed that a bit, and the way that some of the teams, particularly say EF Education, a great example, they've sort of leveraged social media to get a lot of publicity and a lot of profile for doing other things, other than just winning bike races. And I think cycling has kind of become more relaxed because of that.
Well, that's that same cobbled corner we saw Connor Swift leading through about 4 minutes ago, 3¼ minutes ago in the breakaway. And there goes our peloton. Massive crowd down there as well, enjoying it. It is...
You see why you want to be at the front, don't you?
I was about to say, it is genuinely a day when everything stops in Belgium, and we're seeing that. Here we go, cobbles in the Ronde van Vlaanderen. In its 109th edition, we're onto the long strip of cobbles. One of the longest, I think the longest in the race. This is Doorn. Those of you who are watching that aforementioned Dwars of Vlaanderen on Wednesday will recognise this. And actually, in a way, it's a very un-Ronde van Vlaanderen stretch of cobbles. It's far more akin to Paris-Roubaix itself. We're 1 week to go before Paris-Roubaix. We're getting a look in at this stage at a flat, open field, which could be windswept, but isn't really today. And bikes rattling across the cobbles. This is what we've come to see, isn't it?
It does look windy enough, though, Jez. If you look at how the breakaway is across the road, and with the cobbles, it makes it line out. It's not windy enough to really split it, but windy enough to really make it awkward.
Flag on the left-hand side of the road, Mo, which there's actually is quite a breeze across there.
And I think that's why the panic, or not the panic, but the urge to make sure all the riders are towards the front. It's almost across the road. You block the teams, you get together as teams, and almost slow down as we enter this first cobble section of the day.
Well, before we even enter it, unfortunately, it looks like it's day over for Jens Reinders and Max Walker. Great battle by those two to try and get across. They got stuck in the middle. They have had a very good workout, but unfortunately...
They had a good workout, but for absolutely no purpose. They didn't even get on TV.
No, we barely saw them, which was a shame. The gaps in between were just a bit too small. They are going to be fed back in just before we get on to Doorn, and... it will be dawning on them that they are now in with this lot, and a bit of a lock-up into that corner.
This is why it would be at the front. Every time you get these cobble sections, the bergs, the narrow roads, you can be 20, 30th wheel, and suddenly you've got to stop, and you can be riding at 500 and something watts and still find yourself 400 metres off the front of the race.
Yep.
And already, look how line that out the peloton becomes. And we hit those cobble sections. It's going to be a tough one, actually, I think. If we saw Visma do it at Dwars Vlaanderen, the team really wants to go to the front now. I know it's 160 kilometers to go, just under, but if we want to make it hard, like all the teams want to anticipate the big moves, they need to start doing it sooner rather than later.
Yes, they do.
Yeah, and we've seen the crosswind on the cobble as well, on that section, and it's a relatively straight section of road. There are opportunities here for a team that want to make trouble.
Well, let's see. The team who were sort of rolling up their sleeves and looking like they were ready to make trouble was a Red Border Hansgrohe. They've definitely got the riders in that team that could do that could cause some problems on these cobbles, or at least...
They've got a great team for making trouble. It's just that they haven't able to win it.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, it's remarkable we're saying that, because 1 year ago there were actually people coming into this race talking up the chances of Laurens Pithy, and actually he lived up to that, because he was in the moves when it was all going down. He was following with Mathieu van der Poel when he split things up at the front as well. Pithy looked really good in the rain 1 year ago. This spring has not been quite the same for Laurens Pithy. He's not had the same form. He's not had the same luck either. Remarkably, after how well placed he was going into the final hill section last year, Pithy in the end finished 160th, having followed Van der Poel. Maybe one of those riders, chaps, who could be accused or could use that old saying that he sailed a little bit too close to the...
All right, so we have 10 sprints.
I'm just trying to work out where
Woohoo.
they were sitting kind of
7:18.
lead team for a lot of that race in behind. A lot of the race
We're only holding 180.
disappeared completely.
I think last time we were 200, weren't we? For maybe it's this. I feel like this is the same plan. 780 is pretty high. Not a big deal. Just
amongst the Visma, what are they called? The buzzing bees, the flying
the
bee.
power of the beehive or
That's the
whatever
one,
it is.
the
Yeah.
beehive. Yeah, I've lost them.
Not the voice of the beehive. That's a pop group from the 1980s.
It's not quite got the messaging of the wolf pack just yet, but I think it's just me getting it wrong. Anyway, look at the dust as well. What a change from 1 year ago, where that would have been pasty mud and boggy grass at the edge of the road. This year, it's looking dry, dusty and warm. It's quite the visual spectacle for our televisions. Jens Render's not quite caught just yet, but he and Max Walker are going to get caught on this long section of Doorn. It's the first bit of cobbles we get for a while, but we are getting closer to the run-in to the Alde Quaremont. They have to go through Oudenaarde first. They cross over the River Schelte and go southward to start the first hill zone. Coming up, Alde Quaremont, the first ascent, and then the Eikenberg, the Holloweg Karel Martelstraat, which is the next of our long cobbled sectors over the Wolvenberg, then onto the Jagerij, Molenberg and Paderstraat, all in that opening section. So the Hellingen yet to come. It's been a very, very flat and, I have to say, slightly sadly, fairly windless opening to the Ronde van Vlaanderen at the moment.
There's no shortage of wind. It's just nobody's using it.
Well, look at the flags. Look at the flags that are blowing over their heads. It hasn't been used, has it? John, I'm thinking there would have been opportunities. Look at the way those flags are blowing right now, and to run into this, to really turn it on. But no one's really tried, have they?
No, I think the biggest point is the ticker at the top of the screen, still 156 kilometers to go. So the race actually was to get into the section first, and then almost they back off when you're at the front. If you're in a good position, you don't need to carry on fighting, so you're happy where you are, and I think that's exactly what happened.
You can tell, looking at that shot at the front, we'll probably see it when we go back to it. We actually had both Vermeerses at the front, no relation to each other. On the left, Gianni Vermeers of, wow, that was close to the fan. Gianni Vermeers on the left there for Mathieu van der Poel's Alpecin de Koning team. On the right, Florian Vermeers now riding, of course, for UAE Team Emirates. Not related, but related in the way they ply their trade for their teams. Two super reliable classics riders who are up there for good reason right now to make sure they are marshalling things. And actually, I did notice Gianni Vermeers bringing Mathieu van der Poel up to near the front. No evidence of van der Poel there at the moment, though. But our breakaway is off the long cobbled section of Doorn. We're very close to the peloton. I'm not sure they're quite off it just yet, but maybe they are. Maybe they're off it. Looks like they are, in actual fact. So 1,600 metres of cobbles undertaken and under the wheels as well. We've already had a couple of hours of racing under the wheels as well, so that means it's going to be my opportunity to hand back to Jonathan Harris-Bass, and I'm going to leave you in his very capable hands, and I'll be back with you in a while. I'll hand over to Jono, who's going to be with John Mould initially, and I think Hutch is going to have a little break too, possibly.
Thank you very much, Jez. Well, the race taking shape out there and picking up on those differences in conditions. 1 year on, very dusty on those sections of cobblestone so far. This is our breakaway. 8 riders in the breakaway at present. Connor Swift, Elmo Reinders, Alessandro Romele, Sean Flynn, Timo Russen, Rory Townsend, Victor Verquee and Marco Haller. Max Walker and Jens Reinders tried in vain to catch up with them, but this breakaway going through Oudenaarde now for the first time and past the famous museum dedicated just to this one race. So John, when we were first on air together, it was the breakaway was taking its time to form. It's now formed, pretty established. Now we come to, well, the interesting part of the race. I'm not trying to say that the first 100 kilometres or so of the Tour of Flanders isn't interesting, but it's all building to what now takes place over the next 154.
Yeah, and now you look on the profile, it was pretty much flat the whole way across, and then now we get closer and closer to the climbs and everything that comes with it, and it is only now around 13 kilometres until the first time up the Quermont. So expect this bunch to start fighting for position even more than what we just saw for the first cobbled sector of the day.
Well, it's interesting to note exactly where Mads Pedersen, Wout van Aert, Tadej Pogacar and Mathieu van der Poel all within the top 20, even going onto that first section of cobbles. So position crucial in the coming kilometres. Guardian elements of the Lotto team. You see it's warmed up a little.
Yeah, all the arm warmers and jackets have been taken off now, especially as we get closer to the race really starting. No time to come back to the car, so this is your last chance, obviously, really to get back to the car, have a conversation, get some bottles maybe that you haven't collected from the side of the road. Most of the time it gives you enough time to get back up to your teammates in the bunch.
So heading through Oudenaarde for the first time and heading towards the Oude Quadramont for the first of 3 visits. Then it'll be the Eichenberg and the Wolvenberg. Then they go on to 3 sections of cobbles in very quick succession in the Holleweg, Karel Martelstadt and Jägerich. Molenberg. It all comes really thick and fast, and then Paderstraat back onto the cobbles again there as well. So it's where the race is decided, and it will see the thinning out of the peloton. And at the moment, all the main protagonists are safe up towards the front. The teams that are controlling the pace of the peloton are the teams we expect to be controlling the pace of the peloton, and thus far it's what we would expect. I heard someone talking about cycling the other day. I think it was Lionel Burney was saying that it's got to the point now where everything's been done. It's a bit like Hollywood. They're remaking former movies, and we saw that with some Paulus's win the other day, just reminiscent of the Ian Stannard win, and just so many races that seem to be following a blueprint of things we've seen before, but it's cycling, so anything can happen, and you do not know. I mean, you can predict as much as you want, and both you and Hutch have made some left field predictions to try and look very, very knowledgeable. We'll have to wait and see. I mean, you stuck with Michael Matthews.
Yeah, I'm
right from the beginning. So
I'm still sticking with Michael Matthews. It's a difficult one. Yeah, it's so hard to look away from the favourites, but yeah, even there's actually Paul Magnier making his debut, another young one, 21-year-old Frenchman, and he's just re-signed another extra 2 years with Soudal Quickstep. But he's a real fast finisher. Second place at Omloop Het Nieuwsblad. Not as difficult as Ronde van Vlaanderen, but Magnier, a massive talent really. So maybe not this year, but definitely one to watch in the future.
When you look at some of those classics races, and then you compare them to the monuments, yes, you can see some form, but the distance is the thing that really defines these monuments.
The distance and the quality of the field. You go through those semi-classics. Sometimes riders are missing, other riders are not there. Sometimes you have quite a few, but yeah, you come to the monuments, everyone turns up, and this is the time where you really go to battle.
lovely wide avenue as the breakaway heads out of Udenade and heads up towards, well, the battleground of this year's Tour of Flanders, starting with the Eau de Quaremont for the first of 3 occasions. 2 riders there from Team Picnic Poster NL. They're the only team with 2 riders currently in that breakaway. Tudor with Marco Haller, the Austrian. Thousands have lined the streets so far, but there will be many more thousands in this next section as we head into it. That break has held pretty steady at the 3-minute 50-second mark. It's been up at, I think, maximum it was up at around 4:05, but it's just remained in that region all the way through.
Being able to control it. Obviously, you do get in the breakaway. You don't want to ride too hard either. You still have a long way to go. So it's like a bit of a judgment between the breakaway and the peloton. Breakaway shares the workload, saves as much energy as possible, because the further they get into the race, the more chance they've got. So they need to be ready for when the big selection makes its way across to them.
When do you think that's going to happen? Do you think we're going to see an attack from distance, or do you think we're going to see it holding together and just gradually wearing down?
I think the second time over the Eau de Quaremont is the time that the riders who want to get in front of the race need to make a move there. That will be almost like the first finale. And then after that, we hit the Koppenberg, which is a key climb. And that's not long after that. That is 45 kilometers to go in that region. To be honest, that's where I'd see someone like Tadej attacking, because he needs to go early to open the race up. So yeah, I'd say second time at the Quaremont, we'll see some fireworks, not from the big favourites, but then from 45 kilometres onwards, we'll be looking at Tadej, Wout van Aert and Van der Poel making their moves.
And listening to Jez and Hutch and you converse about sort of someone like Mads Pedersen, where will he try and strike? If he's going to try and upset the 2 main favourites, does he need to attack from further out, or does he need to hold his fire and actually just try and stick with them?
I'd say hold his fire. Actually, Mads is a really fast finisher. He can go toe-to-toe with Van der Poel, and on a good day, he's definitely capable of winning. So I think it's better for Mads. With the weather conditions like it is, he wants to be able to follow, and then be there at the end. I think if he goes out in front, that almost just helps Van der Poel and Tadej Pogačar.
Because in the past he has been tempted into making that decision, and it hasn't gone well.
No, and he did a solo move against Wevelgem, but again, we talked about the semi-classics and the monuments. Yeah, Van der Poel wasn't there, Tadej wasn't there. So to do an effort like that, is it just helping your rivals? So it'd be interesting to how he rides. It'd be good if he has the experience of Stuyven and the rest of the team with him, really just to hold him back from making those big moves and saving the matches until right at the end when he has to close the gap.
Well, the Little Trek team have made their way up towards the front. Tosh van der Sant, he just had a mechanical, making his way back in. And here we got Wout van Aert.
Giving the Gile to the neutral service. Obviously didn't want to give it to Alpecin or UAE, he might not get it back.
A very interesting discussion that Jez was having with you about Wout van Aert, about the fact that if we go back a week, or just a Wednesday in fact, if he'd won Tours van Vlaanderen, would people be talking about him in a very, very different way to how they have been talking about him, which is as a bit of an outside shot. We discussed it at the beginning though, and news emerging from the Belgian media especially, about the fact that he's looked a little shaky on the bike, and still doesn't look as though he's fully recovered from the crash at the Vuelta. He'd be a hugely popular winner, and I think it would be an enormous sort of pressure removed from him as well, because he does feel it, and he was saying that the more years that go past and he doesn't win the Tour of Flanders, the more he begins to think, actually, this is never going to happen.
Yeah, obviously Van Aert is again one of those massive talents that we have the honour of watching in the cycling world at the moment, but he's, to be honest, as a Belgian, under so much more pressure when it comes to Ronde van Vlaanderen. And yeah, we can try and say, oh, maybe he looks more nervous, maybe he doesn't, but yeah, we take it back to Wednesday, he was there when it counted. So even if he is a little nervous, doesn't matter. You can be nervous, but if you're there when you need to be, you're there. Doesn't matter if you completely don't want to be and you're really not enjoying it. But if you're good enough and you're in the right position, then it makes no difference. I think sometimes we try and look for a reason why he isn't performing, but he does so much for the rest of his team at this Melissa bike. He sacrifices his chances at the Tour de France every year for his leader. He's a brilliant teammate, and again, if he won on Wednesday, we'd all be like, yeah, he's gonna be doing it. So maybe it's one of those joker cards he's pulled. Maybe he didn't cramp. Maybe he sat up. Belgian press have laid off him. He's not going to win, and yeah, he comes and spoils the party for everyone else.
We can see the roads getting narrower. There was a look of just slight nerves as they headed into that first cobbled section in Dawn. The realisation that this, although still 154 kilometres from the finish, is now all the business end of the Tour of Flanders, and that does give it a certain uniqueness in and amongst the monuments, in that there is that much pressure. I suppose Paris-Roubaix, you would say the same amount of pressure on all of the cobbled sections, but it's a lot. You've got to be completely focused and on it for the whole time.
Yeah, and it's not racing fully into the sections. It's just those moments you don't know what's going to happen. Someone could crash, there could be an issue. If you're too far back, then your race is ruined. So everyone is thinking the same thing, and that's why we saw the big fight into the cobbled sector. But once they got there, if they're at the front, they're happy. You ride and you're able to be controlled, and it's almost going to be the same now. The hardest bit is going to be into the Quermont, and then it'll be easier when they hit the climb.
We talk about position, and Wout van Aert is making his way back up the peloton and trying to nibble away as much as he can there, flying up the inside. No signs of nerves there as he went slightly off-road. So back up with our breakaway. 8 riders with a lead that is beginning to stretch to 4 minutes and 20 seconds now. And we have a rider abandoning, Nolan Modu of Cofidis. And you begin to start to see the quantity of fans, 10,000 up the Oude Quermont. We've already seen in that first section of cobbles, we saw one of the Alpecin riders actually very nearly get taken out by a fan, encroaching just a little bit too far into the road. How hair-raising is it when you're going past, at the speeds you're going past in this, to have that close proximity of fans? I know there's the greatness of the atmosphere, but how does it feel that something quite innocuous could ruin your day?
Yeah, it's pretty frustrating. You're concentrating on the race itself, and on the Quermont it's all barriered, but especially some of the sectors, especially in Roubaix, you're on your limit. You're 185, 190 beats a minute trying to move up and hold position, and reaction times aren't as quick as they always are.
Pace being pressed along here as they start to approach that first ascent of the Quermont, and real effort being put in on the front by Lidl-Trek, and you can see splintering of the peloton behind. Road furniture in the middle and approaching this roundabout.
How key the fight was into the left-hander. And look, at you make it there and then almost sit up straight away. You can see the riders just turn around. Is my leader there? Yeah, okay, well, I can back off. We hold position. In some ways, that fight on the main road is a lot more difficult than this.
We see the different nations' flags. Portuguese, Polish. See the Lion of Flanders, the most frequently spotted flag around here, as they make their way up the Quadramont for the first time, and you begin to get a sense of the quantity of fans, on top of the quantity of fans, the close proximity of those fans, and also just how narrow it is here as well, and the gradients that just start to ramp up on the cobbles. Alessandro Romele is the man out in front, but this is what the Tour of Flanders is about. So Romele stretching his advantage out in front at the moment, up the Quadramont for the first time, and the roars go up from the Belgian fans. Just one in the number of those in the breakaway. Victor Vercuy of the team Flanders Baloise team. 3 times they take on the Quadramont. This is the first, and this is the start of the race proper.
And what a start it was for that breakaway. The amount of fans on the climb hopefully treated a brilliant race today, and I'm sure when they see that peloton roll through, the crowds are going to be a lot louder.
Well, it is just a glorious, glorious image. Quadramont, not the trickiest of climbs, but can often be incredibly decisive in the Tour of Flanders, but just hasn't quite got the gradients to really make it worry too many people. It's just all about position.
It is, yeah, but of course the third time up it makes the difference then at the end. After 250 kilometers, 240 kilometers, that's when it makes the difference. So it's kind of it's a climb, it's a racing climb. If you have the legs, you can really race on it. It's not it's just not a slog completely. So you can see the difference of if you're strong and you can hurt someone, the Quadramont allows you to do it. But then as you see the pinch point, big crash halfway in the bunch. We talked about the importance getting into the sector. This is long before it.
There's some frustration there. Into the ditch. Dries de Bont?
Sander de Pestel, I think.
De Pestel.
De Pestel, yeah.
Other riders who've got caught up in it, and
Niels Pollitt. Actually, Niels Pollitt caught out as well. He's an important rider for Pogačar. But you can see the difference. Front of the race, UAE, Lidl-Trek, and Alpecin de Koenig, almost just having a little chat and a conversation.
So 2.2 kilometres, average gradient of 4.4%, and that max out at 11.6. The toughest segment coming just under halfway into it. But it's the narrowness that makes position absolutely crucial. Lidl-Trek leading this one up. Bit of confetti which will have irritated the riders there. The things that strung out anyway because of that crash at the pinch point about 400 metres before the start of the Kvarnemont. Might put paid to, well, Nils Pollitt being up and present for Tadej Pogačar, but as we know, Pogačar doesn't necessarily have to rely on his teammates. Max Walker, who was involved in an attempt to bridge across to the breakaway 8, looking as though all of that effort really has been for naught. Like a flare in the background, and once again just very little thoughts from that particular fan about exactly where they're standing and the direction of the wind and how it's going to affect the riders. The mind boggles sometimes. Cycling fans are so passionate, they are so wonderful, and they make the sport so much more than it would be if you just had a peloton going through empty fields and roads. But
dude, the fucking dropouts on this was ridiculous.
it does leave a little to be desired, and on either occasion, just quite thoughtless.
Yeah, it's not the best. Not the best thing to have to breathe that in when you're going full gas. But yeah, what can you do? See the difference actually, how relaxed it is towards the front. Still just chatting between Little Trek and UAE Team Emirates.
Well, through the hardest part of the Kvarnemont for the first time. There is a little respite before the next climb, which is, of course, the Eichenberg. But then, climbs and cobbles come thick and fast in that section.
It really does. And interestingly, the Eichenberg was paved only down the middle, so there was drainage ditches either side that you could always find your way on and climb up. But over the winter, they've completely cobbled it all the way across, so no more drainage bits and smooth bit of tarmac. I was at Omloop Het Nieuwsblad, and it was the first time the Eichenberg was open again, and we had soft sides on the road, and it was very big news not to drive on the mud in the team cars because you were going to get stuck. So that was fresh in all the way to the start of March, so hopefully a little bit better now at the start of April.
Well, Tadej Pogačar just cruising through, perfectly placed at the moment. Now, when Paris-Roubaix takes place and it's conditions like this, the dust is a huge factor. Is it less of an issue here in Flanders?
Yeah, it's there's not as much dust, and obviously the climbs that we have are obviously cobble climbs as well, so the speed isn't as high from the vehicles that are in front. But yeah, Paris-Roubaix, the dust is it's yeah, you can't see anything actually here from a team car point of view. Yeah, it's crazy actually.
Well, the first climb has been completed. So 15 more of those to go, and another 6 cobbled sections as well. Breakaway is 4 minutes and 24 up the road, and a relatively relaxed look amongst the peloton that's heading off in pursuit. But as you can see, that peloton, well, quite a large dent has been taken from it. I'm sure they will be catching back up, but it's certainly strung out.
Slowly, it was a little split, but as you can see, the riders behind all coming back together now.
So during this circuit, is this how you expect things to play out? Once again, not going to be too much fuss about closing the gap on the breakaway at present, and just good position for each of the climbs, making sure that you've got your leader in the right place, and then attacking those climbs or attacking the run into them, and then taking the foot off the gas once they've been safely navigated.
Especially in these early stages, I think it's all about positioning for almost the next, the next 70 kilometers really. The fight will be into the sector and then almost back off. And Alpecin, Little Track and UAE Team Emirates have been able to do that and control that really well in those first two sectors we've seen. The breakaway, they're not too worried about the breakaway. I think the racing will take care of itself. 4 minutes is a close enough gap. If it had a little bit more, then I think they'd want to close it down. But with 4 minutes, they're happy. They know that it's a tough day for that breakaway.
Well, Romale was the quickest up first time through the Clermont. We see some of the other times coming through here. Just interested looking at Marco Haller's been prominent in this breakaway. He's had several pulls on the front. What would your natural feeling be towards Tudor's game plan for today?
Well, with the experience of Trentin, obviously he's their leader, and in the pre-race interview he was one of those riders already thinking he can't win, but he's looking for a top 10 finish. And for Tudor, recently announced of being selected in that wild cards to the Tour de France, a team that actually is up and coming. They've grown slowly over time, and this is the first year where they really seem to have taken that step forward. And of course, signing riders like Julian Alaphilippe, not here at Ronde van Vlaanderen. But I think it's all about protecting Trentin, making sure he's there, and giving Trentin the best chance at a top 10 result.
UAE Team Emirates XRG come to the front. They've shared control of the peloton as we would have expected, along with Alpecin de Koning, and we've seen Little Track as well, hopping through and making some efforts as well. It is the Tour of Flanders 2025. 133 kilometres remain. And Philippe Ogana is going to have a change of bike.
And the mechanic, Richard Lambert, been with the team for a very long time now, always in Team Car 1. Ogana in no stress though. He's finding his power meter on his Garmin and connecting it. So he's not texting, he's just he's not going to stop to calibrate it, but he's making sure he has his power meter connected on his spare bike.
We had a conversation about him. I mean, a brilliant ride in the opening monument of the season, where when he was speaking afterwards, he pretty much said he surprised himself that he was able to keep with Pogacar and Van der Poel. You've downplayed what he's probably going to do here, but with his main focus, you think in a week's time?
I think his main focus would be in Paris-Roubaix. They would go there with Josh Tarling as well, two really strong time trialists, but powerhouses. But obviously on a day like today, when even if your thoughts are on Roubaix, if you're on a good day in Ronde van Vlaanderen, you don't know what can happen, so he's doing the right thing. I kind of think it's all going to be about Roubaix, but the form he showed in San Remo to go with Van der Poel and Pogacar, Yeah, he's obviously in really good shape at the moment.
We haven't seen too much of the Team Visma Lisa bike yellow up at the front, but they have become far more prominent now. Peloton largely back together after that small incident that happened just before the initial climb up the Quadramont. But now all focused on heading into, well, that real battleground we'll see between the Eichenberg and arguably that second ascent of the Quadramont is a huge section with so many hills and cobbled sections coming. There's Wout van Aert. He has done really well, actually, Wout van Aert, because he was a long way back.
He's moved his way up, almost had to do it all on his own, but when the team are on the other side of the road, you have to make those moves yourself. You have to get there. If the team comes back for you, then they completely lose their position in the peloton. So when there is a problem, sometimes it's easier for the leader just to get there himself. Few words being shared at the front as well. The road's getting narrower, they're still talking, always discussing. Everyone has mutual respect for each other, but sometimes you expect the mutual respect to be a little bit more than you get back.
It's always really hard to, I mean, sometimes it's not hard to decipher whether they're words said in anger or if they're words which are just a conversation or just sorting out a tactic. That was a curious one between Visma and Lidl. It just did look as though
I think
Visma wanted Lidl to move over a little.
I think because they were going to the right-hand side of the road now, so it was a wide road and they were going to the right, and of course Visma were on the left-hand side. So you could say, yeah, you need to move over and let us in, we're there, or you're looking after each other, but yeah, this is the part of the race sometimes that you don't really get to see, and where the domestiques are so important. Like that manoeuvre there, keeping Wout van Aert out of the wind for longer, could make a big difference later on in the race.
Well, you can hear through the microphones on the bikes, and you could see as we just went past the trees there how blustery it is out there at the moment. And so as a consequence, how you protect yourself and how the big guns manage to protect themselves over the course of the next 100 kilometres, 80 kilometres, is going to be key to the outcome of this race.
Yeah, so the wind at the moment is coming from their right-hand shoulder, so on the TV from the left-hand side. So that means the most protected place is on the left-hand side of the road or the right-hand side of the screen. So that's why the big fight is kind of going on now. You want to be on the left-hand side of the road as you ride to be out of the wind. And that's why that big fight, and I think that's why Visma were really happy where they were. They wanted to stay where they were because they know they've got the most protection possible.
Back out in front, this is the breakaway. 4 minutes and 28 seconds up the road. They currently sit. Connor Swift, Elmo Reinders, Alessandro Romele, Sean Flynn, Timo Russen, Rory Townsend, Victor Verkuy and Marco Haller. Now, Lennart van Eetvelt, I'm not sure, was he one of the riders who came off at that pinch point? I have a feeling that he might have been off his bike. He looks as though he's struggling somewhat here.
Yeah, it sounds like he's got a snap spoke or something, but it's one of those you really need to keep riding for as long as possible on the wheel at the back of the bunch. Yeah, he had a snap spoke in the front wheel. If it was completely unrideable, then he should have stopped.
Flutes? What's a flute?
Riding okay, and I think when you ride and go slow at the back, you lose so much time. And you can see at the front of the race, it's the complete opposite of how he was riding.
The accelerator pedal is down. Ineos Grenadiers coming to the front here. Bahrain victorious, another team where Jez mentioned really been spoken about a lot throughout the opening few hours of this race, and yet they're always there or thereabouts, up towards the front of the peloton.
team now make a right-hand corner very soon. That goes onto a smaller road and makes the approach to the Eichenberg. From the right-hand corner is around 3 kilometers until the bottom of the Eichenberg. This is why the big panic now and movement from all the teams.
Well, Little Trek looking to get Mads Pedersen into a good position, and we've had another fall here. Well, this one looking really serious. Jenna Berkmus, the Lotto cycling team.
Yeah, it looked like a tough one. One rider gone down, I think, but... Oh no. Narvaez. Full of road rash there, big rips in the shorts.
I'm not sure exactly what happened there, but 2 riders down and both suffering. Narvaez is back on the bike and managing to close.
See how hectic it is, though.
Well, is this what happened, or is this another crash?
This is another crash, I think. This is Van der Poel as well. Matthew Van der Poel down. Oof. This must have been towards the front. He was around the top 10 on the last shot.
Well, he's going to need a new bike.
We saw how hectic it was, how windy it was. Van der Poel gets going again. A lot of riders have come down.
It's Lewis Husky down there. Can't tell who the rider is. It was some serious discomfort.
I think it's Emils Leipins, the Latvian champion.
Was that John Degenkolb as well? Now, what's going to go on out in front, because with Van der Poel having to now find his way back, Lennart van Itveld has managed to link up with him.
How big that gap is. And the biggest problem when there is a crash, the convoy of cars, of course, is stopped behind the crash as well, so there's no way of using the cars to get back. And the fight was that, right, now we get to have another look at it.
Quite a significant way back, and it's the EF Education rider who's gone down.
Yeah, I think he just got caught on the left-hand side of the road. Yeah, to be honest, it's so hectic in that situation. Every rider on top of each other. And we saw, and we talked about how the wind was picking up. Well, that's a big one. Van der Poel staying calm and relaxed, and he has his teammates with him.
They have to work hard to find their way back up to the front. Breakaway safely up the road. Peloton 3 minutes and 48, and nearly a minute back to Mathieu van der Poel.
Almost the one thing that's helping him, I don't expect them to really attack the Eichenberg. It's going to be a fight for position into it, again, like we saw on the Quermont. But I do think they will then back off when they hit the Eichenberg and hold position. That gives Van der Poel a chance to come back. He's going to have to make an effort to do it.
And the big question that will hang over until we see right at the end of the race, and the result that we get is, what impact is that going to have overall on him? The effort that he's having to expend now, how much is that going to impact the end of the race for him?
Yeah, it could make a big difference. We never know until right at the end. He isn't alone, though. That's the biggest thing. He's got teammates. He doesn't have to do it all alone. And, of course, that could be a really deciding factor to making sure he gets back to this group.
The breakaway is onto the Eichenberg, 1.2 kilometers with a maximum gradient of 10%. in front once again. The push for position is on, out in front.
This is a big, hectic fight again. They make a left-hand turn onto the Eichenberg. And it really goes really narrow at the beginning before we even hit the cobbles.
Here is that third chasing group. Taking Mathieu van der Poel, just trying to claw his way back to the main peloton. The other thing we don't know is that he didn't come down hard, but he did come down. And it's just what impact has that had on him physically?
Yeah, it's a very difficult one. The car is there to help him though, which the commissaires of course will be keeping an eye on, but you can see how narrow it gets when we make the left turn.
Nervy times. Making their way back onto the cobbles.
We have that first attack as well. Van der Poel not too far away actually, is he? Just coming around the left corner, the bottom of the Eichenberg.
Yeah, he's going to be able to see quite soon those riders up ahead, and you can see by the dust being kicked off the road that cars and riders are not too far up ahead, but we do have an attack out in front on the Eichenberg, and that really is stringing things out. Being marked by
the vehicles are obviously stuck as well, makes it so difficult.
Brent Van Moor there was in real trouble.
Yeah, the problem is
that
the vehicles have horns they can signal, but on a bike all you can do is shout. So yeah, it's really difficult for the camera bike now. We don't know what's going behind the camera bike. It's so difficult for these riders, especially riders who are moving forward, to get round riders who are going backwards and cars that are going backwards.
Well, camera bikes managed to catch up there with Mathieu van der Poel, who's on the Eichenberg climb. Have a glance over the shoulder here. See that acceleration, what it has done to the breakaway. Breakaway have just had a minute eradicated from their lead. So they are pushing on out in front. They are looking to try and
actually, sorry, it's Tudor Pro Cycling who have gone to the front. They have a rider in the breakaway, so I understand you're making it difficult for Van der Poel, but you're just bringing the gap down to that breakaway. I don't know if it's completely the smart move to do. You don't really need to be forcing the pace. It's almost, that's why you have a rider in the breakaway. You have that advantage to sit back and save your energy.
Mathieu van der Poel manages to claw his way back onto the tail end of the peloton. As stated, it all comes really thick and fast now. They've got the Wolvenberg coming up almost immediately. And the cobble sections in Hollebeg, Karel Martelstraat and Jagerig.
This is going to be a long chase for Mathieu van der Poel. Yeah, he might be back in the peloton, but it's so lined out now. It's going to take a long time for him to get back to the front, and it's going to take a lot of energy as well.
It's going to take a lot of energy, but of course we're not going to know what impact that has on his chances until they cross the finish line. A short, sharp bite here on the Wolvenberg. Maximum gradient of 17.3%. And this is our breakaway. And they are seeing their lead whittled away quite rapidly at the moment. It was out at 4:24 just a couple of kilometres ago. And with that acceleration on the front, led, ironically, by one of the Tudor riders, they've seen that advantage really plummet.
What a job Eddie Plancart is doing for his leader, Mathieu van der Poel. He's been on the floor as well, you have to remember. And this is a key move that Plancart is able to do to bring van der Poel back to this group. Without him, I don't think he'd get back. So, we talk about riders riding on the front and those domestics that we see day in, day out, working and sacrificing themselves. But this is a move from Plancart that, is phenomenal to make sure he gets his leader back to the peloton.
We did say, right at the beginning of the broadcast, as Adrien Petit, International becomes the latest to abandon. That is a shame. Not sure whether he was involved in that pile-up. One imagines he probably was, and I don't think he'll be the only one to retire from that. On to this second section of cobbles, Hollebeg. Conversation earlier about just how much kinder the cobbles are in Flanders than they are when you compare them to the pavé of Paris-Roubaix.
Look at the move, trying to move up. Plancart still dragging van der Poel to the front. Those little cobble sections make it more difficult, and it was a Tudor rider attacking at the front of the peloton. It's a questionable move, really. I don't really understand. They're trying to make it harder for van der Poel, maybe? Is that the reason?
I think it's really the only explanation that would make any sense at this point, because otherwise you're just affecting Haller's opportunity out in front. Another tight turn to the right. 120 kilometers to go, but the racing really has taken on a totally new dimension, and it's been added to by the fall and crash which brought down defending champion Mathieu van der Poel. And this is at the front of the main peloton. Onto the Wolvenberg, and that really vicious 17.3% max gradient. Clear to see as the riders hit it and try and once again put distance between themselves and the back.
Now, time of Jaco Alula to really start the race off.
I mean, that's more understandable as a move from Jaco Alula, in that they have no one in the breakaway.
Oh, they actually do as well.
They do have one in the breakaway.
So I don't know what's going on. Maybe there's a new script. You know, if you have a teammate in the breakaway, maybe it's the way to do it. But yeah, it seems like a crazy move early on. I don't think they need to be forcing the pace. And van der Poel, making his way slowly now back towards the front of the peloton.
Yeah, which is good to see.
The other key section, if you do make a move, if a counter-attack goes on these sections now, the advantage is, if you do make it into a small group, you can then say, I can't ride, I've got a teammate up the road. Then you can save energy, and if the counter-attack makes it to the lead breakaway, of course, they are a lot of what-ifs in the right situation.
Well, Alpecin de Koenig have riders up towards the front here who are able to mark everything that's going on in the lead. At the same time, it's Trentin.
Yeah, Matteo Trentin making a move. Maybe the anticipation, we've talked about anticipating the race. Maybe this is where it starts. Riders wanting to get ahead of the big finale that will happen later on.
Well, they come across that section of cobbles in the Hollebeg, and then we've got a relatively short gap between they hit Karel Martelstadt. Florian Demisch. Long way back. Do riders tend to prefer just going over the cobbles, not thinking too much about where they are, or do they prefer the gutter, where it looks smoother?
It depends really on what the gutter really looks like sometimes. You can see if it's in the middle of the road, it's quite smooth. Then sometimes the gutter is really nice, but every once in a while there's a big hole that you can't see. And the risk of punctures is actually a lot higher in the gutter and on the edges than the middle of the road. But with that, sometimes it's a lot smoother and easier. So it's that balancing act of, do I really want to save a lot of energy and risk the higher chances of puncturing, or do I stay in the middle and stay safe?
1200 metres along Karel Martelstraat. Alpecin Pickernick, Team Visma Lisa Bike, UAE Team Emirates, Little Trek, all prominent up at the front of the race, as you would expect them to be, with their team leaders all keen on victory here in the 109th edition of the Tour of Flanders. Tadej Pogačar, as he has done pretty much since the beginning of the day, sitting inside the top 20. In the World Champions jersey, just looking, he's looked very relaxed.
Yeah, we can't miss him, but he has been, quite quiet, actually. We can always see him, but he's been in that little sweet spot, hidden, out of the wind, but always in a position if something goes wrong, he's able to get to the front. And riding as he always does, and as usual, riding like a world champion.
Well, Jacob Alula up there as well at the moment, which we've already discussed. A curious tactic along with Tudor, considering that both teams have riders in the break. Well, Florian Demisch and Tim Wellens here sitting towards the back of the peloton.
Actually, a little bit of a group that have been dispatched by the looks of it as well. Tudor really looking to open up the race, aren't they? The way they're going about it. Some crashes in the feed zone here, it looks like. Someone, Decathlon AG Touet. Not sure on who that is.
It's Eric Gressel of Unoix, who's now back on his bike and making his way back towards the peloton. But we've had a number of minor crashes involving just a couple of riders, but the one major one did involve Mathieu van der Poel. Things becoming ever more strung out in the peloton.
This is the narrow roads and the leading towards the next few climbs.
One more section of cobbles to come at Jägerich, and then we've got Molenberg, cobbles at Paderstraat, then a couple of uncategorized climbs in between before they start hitting the hills again of the Flemish Ardennes. Here we go on to Jägerich. 900 metres of cobbles here. Visma in the gutter.
Still cobbles, just a little bit smoother on that left-hand side of the road. There's Tosh van der Sande, Visma Lisa Bike.
How many prerequis does the team do ahead of a race like the Tour of Flanders?
Yeah, a lot. If you want to be a fan of, if you're a cycling fan and you want to see riders out training, opening weekend, stay around for the 2 days before it or the 2 days after it, and you'll see every team pretty much out on their training rides. And they could do 3 or 4 recons, even early season ones, and then as we get closer to race day.
Off the cobbles, so another obstacle that has been successfully negotiated by a number of the peloton here. As you can hear, wind once again starting to get up. Now, Groupama FDG, a team we haven't spoken at great length about in our predictors. One of the predictions was Valentin Mywhoosh to perform well here. Is that someone that you could see doing well today?
Yeah, Mywhoosh, the FDG actually have a really strong team, and then of course Stefan Kung, former Swiss champion. I'd look towards more with Kung. Everyone will be looking at him, but yeah, even Mywhoosh could steal a march. He's one of those riders who can make an early move and an attack, and everyone is thinking about Stefan Kung and kind of happy for Mywhoosh to slip away. It's always nice in teams when you go in with a double plan, not just sticking your flag to the mast with one rider straight away. You have those double options, 2 co-leaders, can work to your advantage. Not always, but it can play a bit of a game when you need to.
8-man breakaway is 2 minutes and 28 seconds up the road. The chasing peloton is slowly but surely shrinking. Main incident that has happened really in the race as far as the main contenders for the title today are concerned is Mathieu van der Poel, involved in a crash but managed to get back on his bike. He's been guided back in after a gargantuan effort from Edward Plankett to haul him back in. And, well, what remains to be seen is just how much impact is that going to have on his chances of winning a 4th Tour of Flanders title. That will all pan out over the coming hours. This is our breakaway. 8 riders heading towards the Molenberg now.
Should we go full power?
Wind aside, it has been a glorious day. Blue skies, sunshine, in marked contrast to last year's conditions for the Tour of Flanders.
We spoke a little bit earlier on, but that is Matti Miholic of Bahrain victorious. Always had that brilliant style, that tuck, that aero tuck when it was allowed. But he's up there, he's in good shape, so looking good for the Bahrain victorious man.
Short little punch up the Molenberg, 460 metres with a maximum gradient of 14.2%, but as you can see, very narrow.
It's very, very narrow. You go across that little bridge at the start as well. There's a big hole there, actually. You really notice it on the bike and in the cars. But this is a key section. Omloop Het Nieuwsblad, opening weekend, we hit the Molenberg, and that was where the race really exploded. If there's a problem on the Molenberg, you have no chance to get round. You have to get off your bike and almost run up the side of the road. So Molenberg positioning is key.
The riders have attempted to position themselves as well as they can to go into the Molenberg. Accelerations clear to see there. This is up at the head of the race, making their way up the Molenberg. It's a short, sharp climb. And they can see the top.
You make a right turn at the top, and they will have a bit of a crosswind. from their left shoulder, but then it goes back into a headwind again. So for the peloton, that's important, really. If they come over the top, if you are distance, knowing that it's a headwind, the peloton should slow down over the top.
EF Education Easy Post come to the front here to try and really press the acceleration on. Visma, Lisa Bike coming through, and here's Edward Plankett. Well, his job today was to guide Mathieu van der Poel back in after that crash, and he did it admirably, but he has emptied the tank in doing so. So the swing onto the Molenberg. Welcome shade greets the riders in that initial part, and then back out into the sun, and the gradient ramps up again.
Straight away, short cobbled sector, but favourites soon make their way to the front, don't they? Van der Poel, followed by Pedersen and Pogačar. Van der Poel in the wheel of Nielsen Paulus, the winner of Doors Vlaanderen. Only a little bit further back is Wout van Aert.
Yeah, all the big guns present. Van Aert onto the radio. Over the top of the Molenberg they come. And now they head down towards Paddestraat for the next cobbled section.
Look at the road behind, completely blocked. Now, XDS Astana. This is an anticipating move. It's going to be really tough into this headwind. Bellerini takes his chance. He's riding controlled though. He's not going full gas, you can tell. Able just to try and control that effort. Again, style Mathieu Trentin. He accelerates from the peloton, starts to close down Bellerini.
So Bellerini with Trentin just behind, and then a glance over the shoulder, and Team Visma Lisa Bike have come up to the front as well. You can see the impact that the Molenbergs had on the race, but just starting to close back up, and it's just a question of recovery.
Yeah, there's a few attacks now going. Pedersen, the Danish champion from the Decathlon AG Tour. He's trying to bridge across. And then it looks like Visma Lisa Bike are the ones that have to control.
Ballerini, just a little flick there, and pushing along there with Vito Breit.
Looks like Stefan Kung as well has made his way across. That means the style Tish Benoot needs to close that gap down.
Immediately Tish Benoot's got to no, we're not going to let that. That's not happening.
It's a good move though, actually. Benoot's gone across on his own. It's a strong floor rider group that have kind of just slipped away in these sections. Now Now you've got to decide who's going to ride behind. And this is exactly where, if I'm not mistaken, in Doors Flandern, where Visma Leasebike ripped the race to pieces. See the crosswind really not being nice for Tischminut. He scrambles his way across to that counter-attack.
Quentin Hermans looking to try and bridge himself now for Alpecin de Koning. Those 4 riders, Tischminut has made it up the roads. So Ballerini, Kung and Breds joined by Tischminut and looking to forge forward. Behind the shake-up, taking its time for teams to decide what they want to do exactly here, and with 107 kilometres still to go, they probably do have the time, but
yeah, not a organised chase though, is it? It's more counter-attacks, making sure you have a rider in the breakaway before slowly start to work together. Looks like Trentin trying to make his way across.
Communication here.
Also, cars from the breakaway have been pulled out to the side of the road. That usually means that gap is a little bit smaller than it's being shown on the ticker at 140. Usually try and take out a gap when it's around a minute mark, so that gap might be a little bit less than we're seeing. But obviously the race in the peloton, the commissaires decide if the race really begins, they need to pull those cars out, and I think that's what they've done with this cobbled sector of the Pas de Strade.
Onto the Pas de Strade, one of the longer sections of cobbles in the Tour of Flanders at 2,300 metres. The party atmosphere continues on the side of the road. Riders roared through as they make their way towards the final 100 kilometres of the 2025 Tour of Flanders. And everything is hotting up. Exactly as people would want, really, for the neutral perspective. The race is panning out in a wonderful way so far. The peloton becomes ever more stretched. Team Visma Leasebike with riders up towards the front. They have Tischminut currently in this group.
Interestingly, when we do get to the end of this sector, we make a right-hand turn, and from 100 kilometres to go, the riders will have this wind that has been bothering will be a strong tailwind. So that might allow that counter-attack to gain a bit more advantage on the peloton.
Timo Russen of Team Picnic PostNL labouring away. And that breakaway is becoming ever more fragmented on the Pas de Strade. It's the back of the peloton. The peloton now ceding 30 seconds to that group of 4.
You see a lot of freewheeling actually in the peloton further back. Not at the front, of course, is Niels Pollitt. Pulls the bunch along. almost, again, you get to the sector, you get to the fight for the sector at the moment is the biggest part of the race, the hardest part. And then when they get onto these cobbled sectors, it's not easy, but it's they're able to really control their efforts and hold positions at the front.
Magnus Sheffield's
dropped his chain. It looks like it's gone over the top and off the front mech. Youngles, the experienced Bob Youngles, relaying that information back to the team car as well. Sheffield, easy to forget, he's still quite a young rider.
At the moment, Stefan Kung really is pressing on. They've got 40 seconds, and they are closing on this group of riders. Just see if I don't think we've got the full complement anymore. Just down to 6 now. The riders of Romelet, Swift, Flynn, Townsend, and Haller. And when we saw moments ago that Timo Russen was struggling, he clearly has struggled so much that he's been dropped.
This is a really good move, and all 4 of them should be keen to ride when we get off the cobble sector. Actually, these 4 can work well together. But really, that is, we talked about it enough, the anticipating move to get ahead of the race, to use energy, to hopefully save some energy later on.
Main peloton looks at this stage as though really pushing things